It took me over 2 months to decide to publish this interview because I was not happy with my interpreting. However, I thought all interpreters need to see that other interpreters make mistakes and how they handle it. And also, I wanted you to meet the amazing Natalie Pelto. Natalie is a beacon of hope and transformation in the realm of pediatric health and nutrition, with over 2 decades of experience in healthcare, particularly in diagnostic imaging. She has seamlessly transitioned into a passionate advocate and educator focused on improving outcomes for children with autism and ADHD. Her journey is marked with a profound commitment to integrating advanced nutrition practices and lifestyle strategies to support brain development and overall well being. Natalie's expertise has earned her the title of the Food is Medicine Queen and the foremost strategist for tackling picky eating as recognized by her community. Based in Northern Ontario, Canada, amidst the Muskoka's breathtaking landscapes, Natalie not only teaches but lives out her principles alongside her loving family. Her pioneering program, the Blue Life Autism Building Brilliant Brains program, serves as a vital resource for mothers, pediatricians, and physicians, equipping them with innovative approaches to enhance the lives of children with neurodevelopmental conditions. Driven by a mission to expand treatment options and elevate outcomes, Natalie endeavors to empower every child to embrace and share their unique gifts with the world. Her dedication, knowledge, and unwavering compassion continue to inspire and uplift families and professionals alike, creating a ripple effect of positive change in the lives of children and communities worldwide. I will leave you to this interview. I have left some comments as the interview goes on. I would be happy to hear from you in terms of the interpreting. And if you're here to learn more about Natalie's program and her amazing work, please listen to any language you like in this interview and have a look at the links below to check out her program. Let's begin. Hello and welcome to today's interview session. Today we have Natalie Pelto with us. Natalie used to work in the hospital, and I would like to hear from her again what she was doing. And now she's a detox specialist working for herself. You've started your own business. So, could you tell us a little bit about what you used to do and how the transition happened to what you're doing right now?
So truthfully, I was interested in health probably starting not at the beginning of my career. I was in my third generation, like most people today, of not knowing any better. I was very unhealthy. I had all of my medicine pillars, and you know what that means. You can probably explain it, or I can explain it really quickly. I was not sleeping well. I was focusing on a very active party life as a young adult, and I was in healthcare. And what actually transitioned me into wanting to even learn about health was my son was almost diagnosed at around 2 years old with autism. He he was not speaking, and I'm very privileged to have a fantastic family doctor who saw that right away. And when she saw that he wasn't speaking, she sent me to multiple appointments, which I thought I was going there for a speech referral. And so when I went, and the pediatrician looked me in the eye and said, I think your child is autistic, I was really blindsided. And as a parent who had never been exposed to autism other than its form of suffering, in the sense that in healthcare, when we see children on the spectrum, they've either had self-harm, or they're in a meltdown, or they're in a part of their lives where suffering is all that we see. And so for me, this was really heartbreaking. And at the time, it really devastated me. And I was basically told that my life would become a series of appointments, a series of, constant healthcare visits. And I wasn't very acceptant of that. And so what I decided was I was going to start researching. And what I researched in healthcare told me exactly the same thing that what that pediatrician had told me. But there was one instance where I found a woman, she was a neurosurgeon in healthcare, that actually had shared her version of a story of having a high functioning autism child or
Sorry.
autistic child.
Can I interrupt you,
Yeah.
please? Because I need to interpret this,
Okay.
and then I would like to hear the rest of it.
Okay.
Is that
Go
okay?
ahead. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
So إذا السؤال كان أن ناتالي كانت تعمل في القطاع الصحي والآن هي عندها عملها الخاص أو البزنس الخاص بها، فكيف حصلت هذه النقلة؟ فتقول أنها كانت تقول أنني كنت مهتمة بالصحة عامة، وكنت ولكن عندما وصلت إلى العقد الثالث من حياتي لم أكن أستطيع النوم جيدا، لم كنت أركز على حياة اللهو كشابة، ولكنني كنت في القطاع الصحي. وعندما أصبحت أما كان عمر ابني 2 عام وتم تشخيصه بمرض التوحد، فلم يكن يتكلم. كانت عندي طبيبة عائلة جيدة قالت لي أنه يجب أن يتحول إلى طبيب الأطفال. ظننت أنه تم تحويله لأنه لا يستطيع الكلام، ولكن طبيب الأطفال أخبرني أنه عنده هذا التشخيص أو التوحد. فكآباء وأمهات عادة عندما نرى هذا التشخيص ما يأتي إلى بالنا هو أنه طفل يؤذي نفسه، يبكي بشدة، يعاني. وظننت أنني ستكون حياتي من الآن فصاعدا موعدا إلى موعد، من موعد إلى موعد آخر طبي. وقمت ببعض البحث، والبحث أخبرني نفس الشيء الذي أخبرتني إياه الأخصائية الأطفال أو طبيبة الأطفال، حتى التقيت بهذه السيدة. Sorry, can we go back to the point where you met this person?
Yes.
who said something different than the research you've done?
Yeah. So she was a neurosurgeon.
Okay.
In the UK, so not anywhere near where I live. So I actually found her online. First touch of online where I could find some sort of story or validation that this could have a different outcome. Mm-hmm. So for me, it was all based in understanding the study of the microbiome, so gut health, and understanding that health could have different impacts for autism. For most families who have autistic children, they know that children on the spectrum do not eat very healthy for the most part. They say about 95% of children are picky eaters. And this impacts their brain development massively. The ability for receptive language, it has over 10 different nutrients needed just for like one message to go through. And so the same thing is for when they want to speak. And my son was completely nonverbal, so he couldn't speak at all. And so I was really motivated because nothing that was shared was dangerous. So I became interested in health. And that was the exact moment where I began my studies in understanding different outcomes for health. I have done 8 certifications now, so quite a few. One of them in detox, which is the one that I probably share about the most. And I also did some nutritional therapy. And as I was learning, we were implementing these practices that I was learning with my son. And he started to change. And then we want to make that long story short and bring us to the outcome, my son at 6 years old, to put it into a short time frame, was completely nonverbal, and he was just starting to make eye contact. And by 7.5, his pediatrician released him from his diagnosis. And he was deemed to no longer need it. So my son now is thriving. He's 14. So we've been 7 years in and living a very healthy lifestyle, very plant-rich, focused on supporting his brain, his body, and his microbiome and his gut health. And he just continues to thrive. And when you have a story like that, the message gets, it was a hard journey to go through, but the message can't be kept secret. And so there is a responsibility to share. And so although I chose not to share it for probably about 4 years, I kept our journey to myself, to our family self, and we were very private. I could see that how I was changing in healthcare, how I was realizing that some of the processes that even I was doing in healthcare were bothering me because of the health, the implications. So I used to work in CAT scan. I spent 21 years in diagnostics, which meant I worked in bone mineral density. I worked basically, if I were to explain it in an easy way, the inside of the human body is something I'm so familiar with. Every system is what we look at in healthcare that way. But in order to visualize some of those systems, we actually have to inject substances into people. And I was starting to realize that that wasn't aligning with me anymore. And although some of these things are absolutely necessary in specific situations, I just wasn't feeling like my place was in a diagnostic field of seeing, cancer patients being diagnosed daily, watching people pass away from, lifestyle borne illnesses that I knew were preventable. Mm-hmm. And so I started to have a disconnect with the healthcare system. Okay. And yeah, go ahead.
Sorry about that. So إذا عندما تواصلت مع هذه السيدة، كانت هي أخصائية جراحة الأعصاب وكانت في بريطانيا، فتعرفت عليها أونلاين أو عن طريق الإنترنت، وليست في المكان الذي أعيش فيه. أولا تأكدت أن هناك شيء وجدته يؤكد أن هناك طريقة أخرى غير الطرق الطبية الحديثة الموجودة. فهي كانت تتحدث عن البكتيريا الموجودة في الأمعاء وصحة الأمعاء. فمعظم العائلات التي أراها أو التي الإحصائيات تثبت أن 95 من الأطفال الذين عندهم توحد لا يأكلون الطعام الصحي بصورة صحيحة. فمثلا الطفل يحتاج إلى 10 عناصر غذائية حتى يفهم اللغة وغيرها من العناصر حتى يستطيع أن يتكلم. فلهذا شعرت بأن عندي الدافع لأتعلم هذا الشيء، خاصة أن المعلومات التي قرأتها لم أجد شيئا ضارا فيها أو خطرا فيها، فقلت أنا سأجرب هذا. حتى قمت بدراسة هذا الموضوع بصورة دقيقة، وحصلت على 8 شهادات مختلفة. واحدة منها هي في مجال التخلص من السموم أو الديتوكس، وواحدة أخرى هي أن أصبحت معالجة بالتغذية. لنختصر القصة، رأيت التغييرات في ابني. ففي عمر 6 سنوات ابني لم يكن يستطيع الكلام أبدا، وكان قد بدأ التواصل عن طريق النظر فقط. ولكن عندما أصبح عمره 7 سنوات ونصف، قامت أخصائية الأطفال أو طبيبة الأطفال بترخيصه أو إنهاء علاجه معي مع طبيبة الأطفال، لأنه كان يتحدث وكل شيء تحسن فيه. الآن عمره 14 سنة، نحن كعائلة نعيش حياة صحية، نركز على الخضروات والفواكه أو النباتات، وندعمه صحيا جسديا وذهنيا. وعندما تكون هناك قصة كهذا، تكون هناك رحلة صعبة مررنا فيها، ورأيت بأنني يجب ألا أبقي هذه الرسالة لنفسي فقط. كان هذا الموضوع سريا في عائلتنا لمدة 4 سنوات، ثم رأيته واجبا علي أن أشاركه مع بقية الناس. وهنا بدأت رحلة التغيير في مهنتي أيضا، لأنني كنت أعمل في قسم الأشعة المقطعية، كنت أخصائية التقاط هذه صور الأشعة المقطعية، ولم أرى نفسي قادرة على إكمال هذا الشيء، لأننا يجب أن ندخل صبغة في أجسام الناس حتى نستطيع أن نحدد الأمراض الموجودة فيهم. نعم، هذا ضروري في كثير من الأحيان، لكنني لم أرى أنني أستطيع أن أكمل في هذا. تتم بعض أنواع السرطانات تشخيصها عن طريق الأشعة المقطعية، أو رؤية كثير من الناس يتوفون من أشياء كان قد يمكن أن نتجنبها. Sorry, that was long. You're free to keep it shorter if you'd like to. I'm comfortable with this speed.
Okay, yeah, no, it's
taking
fine.
My notes with the
okay, perfect, yeah. So then I decided with COVID that happened, this is like kind of right around COVID time, and my views and my agreements with how I felt towards the hospital became more and more separate. So in 2022, I decided to go on my own. And now I started my business. I started by seeing adults. I wasn't quite ready to see children yet. In the world of autism right now, there is a lot of divide. And so one side is very, very for health and autism and seeing these changes. And then there is a side that is afraid of the attitude that is being taken towards autistic individuals, where it's considered we want to focus on inclusivity. And so I don't want to say that it's divided, but we're in a space where our priorities feel different almost. And so now what I finally decided was that I was going to go all in with kids on the spectrum after my child's story, having a lot of conversations with moms. I had an Instagram account that I could just see so much suffering. And I decided to go all in, regardless of what was happening in the online world. And I decided that, and then I found others like me. I found other families who were seeing the changes that we had seen in our children, who were losing their diagnosis. And so it just made sense for myself to take all of the knowledge that I had acquired and create a very powerful program. Now, saying that, there was one certification that really shone above all the others, and that was my lifestyle medicine certification that I did with Dr. Juno. And so when we did this certification together, I realized that everything that we had done was not just nutrition based. It was an entire lifestyle change. It was a shift. It was addressing movement and going outside. It was slowing down and stepping away from a modern living that we have now. Mm-hmm. So this is now part of this beautiful program that was, 2 years in the making, that I had been working on in the background. Even though I had told myself in the hospital I didn't know if I was going to work with autistic kids or their families, I was still working on something for them. So I guess in deep down, I always knew. And it launched about 4 months later, and we have almost 100 families in the program now. And we are just over the moon with the changes that each and every one of these families that begin this process see. We have lots of families that are going from completely nonverbal to conversational. Some of them that are going from 0 words to 100 plus words in just a few months. These are families that were told that they would never have, or their children would potentially never have the ability to speak. Mm-hmm. So for us, this has been what my program is all about. I can explain a little bit of it if you want to do this part first.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't get the part about the division that's there. Is it between adults and children, or is it between? I think that point wasn't very.
I would say that the division in the autism world is like the priority of focusing on inclusivity versus focusing on helping them change.
Inclusivity between who and who? Adults and children?
No, just between like parents who choose to have some parents don't want this for their kids.
The like changes in the diet and
yes,
all.
They don't. They think that it's you not accepting your child for who they are.
Okay. Yes. And the other part is people who are willing to do the changes.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, it's hard to explain, but it's such a big divide that you literally, like, this video will likely have both sides of that in it. I'm a fast deleter of comments. So there's people who are so for it that see it, and I mean, like, I do speak in front of physicians that are very open to it, and developmental physicians that are really excited about the changes that we're seeing in the program. But then you have some parents that are thinking that that's wrong.
Okay.
But I think it's like that for everything.
Okay. Yeah. I see it now. Okay. إذا قررت بعد أن بدأت الجائحة العالمية أن رأيت أن أفكاري وآرائي لا تتماشى كثيرا مع ما يحدث في المشفى وقتها، فقررت أن أنفصل. ففي عام 2022 قررت أن أبدأ عملي الخاص، وبدأت برؤية البالغين ليس الأطفال. أولا لم أكن جاهزة للأطفال. وفي عالم التوحد هناك مجموعتان: مجموعة تعتقد بأننا يجب أن نقبل الأطفال أو الناس الذين عندهم توحد هكذا، ولا نحاول أن نقوم بأي تغيير على ما يحصل، فقط ندعمهم كما هم. ومجموعة أخرى ترى أننا يجب أن نحاول أن نغير مثلا في النظام الغذائي أو طريقة الحياة، وقد نرى نتيجة جيدة من ذلك. ورأيت كثيرا من الناس الذين في عالم الإنترنت، رأيت كثيرا من الناس الذين كانوا مثل عائلتي، أنهم قاموا بالتغييرات ورأوا تغييرات إيجابية في أطفالهم. لذا قررت أن أخذ كل العلم الذي حصلت عليه وأن أصنع هذا أو أقوم بصنع هذا البرنامج أو وضع هذا البرنامج. ومن الشهادات التي حصلت عليها وأشعر بفخر أنني عندي إياها هي الشهادة الخاصة بالطب طريقة الحياة أو اللايف ستايل ميديسن. فقمت بهذا مع الدكتورة جنو، وكان تغييرا كاملا لنمط الحياة أو طريقة الحياة. نرى أننا مثلا الحركة مهمة في الصحة، أن نبتعد قليلا عن الحياة التكنولوجية الموجودة والجلوس لفترات طويلة والطعام غير الصحي، وكل هذا نغير فيه. فقمت بوضع هذا البرنامج أو العمل عليه لمدة عامين، ولم أكن أدري أنه سيكون مفيدا للأطفال الذين عندهم توحد أيضا. ثم قبل أو في غضون 4 أشهر. Sorry, I'm not clear on that point. It launched in 4 months. So you made it for 4 months, or
No,
4 months ago you started it?
No, so from the time I left the hospital, we launched it in 4 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
إذا من الوقت الذي تركت فيه المشفى استغرق مني 4 أشهر حتى أضع هذا البرنامج للجميع. والآن 100 عائلة منخرطة في هذا البرنامج الذي وضعته، ونحن سعداء للغاية بالتغييرات الإيجابية التي نراها في هذه العائلات. هناك عائلات كان هناك فيهم ناس لا يستطيعون الكلام أبدا، ثم الآن يستطيعون أن يقوموا بحوار. وهناك ناس لم يكن عندهم أي كلمة، لا يستطيعون أن ينطقوا بأي كلمة، يستطيعون الآن أن ينطقوا بمئات الكلمات. فهذه التغييرات التي حصلت. So you wanted to talk more about...
Do you want me to talk about the program and like kind of what flows through it? Yes. Sure. So in the program, what we focus on is a nutrition first approach. So we start there. If families are more open to it, which most of them are, we have a program called Bring the Fun Back to Mealtime. It's all about overcoming picky eating. Mm-hmm. So everything is about implementation and habit building, but doing it in fun. So for most kids, they actually will be more receptive to change 400 times better in fun than in repetition.
400 times?
Yes.
Okay.
So it's quite substantial. So taking this approach and helping parents go from mealtime mayhem to fun not only helps the child accept more, it also helps the parents regulate their nervous system. And a big part of autism where we see high levels of behavior issues, such as meltdowns, tantrums, like uncomfortable feelings, often is that parents don't realize that their children are co-regulating from them. Okay. So that's another aspect. We have an entire call within the program built around what we call compassionate coaching, where Dr. Juno actually leads those calls, and we focus on understanding how our children are reacting to even just our reactions to let's just say a long day when we're exhausted. And now we have in our world today 2 parents working 90% of the time. And so we have parents that are exhausted. They do not have the same amount of time in the kitchen. So what we teach is the easiest way to implement small fun habits that will create the longest sustainable change. Mm-hmm. Then the next portion of it, as they overcome picky eating, we focus on filling the nutritional gaps. So I call it nutritional deficiencies. So we look at what kids are missing based on their symptoms. And this could be like, for example, like having 2 marks on your nails that are white could potentially be for a zinc deficiency. But there are multiple of these. They go through assessments. And so they find what they're missing. Oh. And then you could just say, we fill the gaps. We fill those nutrition gaps. And with that, we are intentional with brain development nutrition.
Brain development.
Yes. So I have a certification in advanced child brain development with food. So that's what we focus a lot on that. It's often the missing link in many other programs.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, because our kids, we are constantly rebuilding our brain. Like we used to think that we would have this big output of neurons that would happen at 2 and that was it. Done. But now we know that with neuroplasticity like being discovered, and that someone who, for example, has a car accident and goes blind, they can rewire neural pathways so they can hear better. Mm-hmm. And so we know now that that is not a set in stone. So although our children with autism can be born potentially due to many, and I can talk about that too after, like what I see as being those foundational causes. But most people will say a child with autism has a brain that is wired differently. But the truth is that our brain is constantly rewiring itself, and it will always choose survival. And so if things are in the brain that are blocking it and they don't have the proper nutrients to build the brain, it will always choose survival and try to rewire itself to the easiest survival, like importance of the body surviving. Mm-hmm. And so that's what we do. We try to focus on helping that portion. Do you want to?
Yes. Please.
Okay. I know that was a bit of a
little heavy. Yeah.
Yeah.
So إذا ما نركز عليه أولا هو طريقة التغذية أو التغذية. فإن كانت العائلات متقبلة لهذا الشيء، من المهم أن ندخل الفرح والسعادة إلى وقت الطعام حتى نتغلب على صعوبة الأطفال للأكل أو تقبلهم للأكل. فتثبت الإحصائيات أن معظم الأطفال يتقبلون الطعام 400% أكثر من العادة إن كان الطعام مقدما بطريقة ممتعة، بدلا من فقط الإعادة في الشيء ومحاولة أن نوجد فيهم عادة تقبل الطعام. فالأطفال الذين عندهم توحد مثلا رأينا، أو عندما يبدأ الطفل بالبكاء بشدة أو الصراخ، هو في هذه الحالة يحاول أن يعدل من أعصابه أو يضبط أعصابه حتى أو ينظم من المشاعر التي يشعر بها. هذه الطريقة للتأقلم. لهذا عندما نعدل من الطعام فنحن نساعده في أن يتغلب على هذه الأشياء التي يشعر بها. فنعرف أن الآباء والأمهات عندهم صعوبة في تحضير الطعام. العائلات تعود من العمل، الأم والأب متعبان، فما نقوم به في هذا البرنامج هو أن نوجد أسهل طريقة لخلق العادات طويلة الأمد والتغلب على الأطعمة غير الصحية. وأيضا نحاول أن نملأ الفراغات الموجودة في التغذية الصحية. مثلا نرى أشياء موجودة في الجسم أو علامات، مثلا إن رأينا علامات على الأظافر، علامات بيضاء، نعرف أن هذا نقص في عنصر معين من الطعام. فهذه هناك تدقيق نقوم به أو تقييم نقوم به لنعرف أو نرى هذه العلامات الموجودة في الطفل. ثالثا هو نمو الدماغ، وأنا عندي شهادة في نمو دماغ الطفل، شهادة متقدمة في هذا المجال، وهذا عنصر تفتقده معظم البرامج الأخرى التي تركز على هذا الموضوع. نعرف أننا عادة أو أن دماغنا ينمو أو يتحول طوال حياتنا، لا يتوقف عند عمر الثانية. مثلا إن كان شخص قد قام أو حصل له حدث معين، نعرف أننا نستطيع أو أصيب بالعمى، نعرف أننا نستطيع أن نعمل على الدماغ بطريقة حتى نقوي عنده حاسة السمع مثلا. فالدماغ تتم إعادة برمجة الدماغ بطرق مختلفة حتى يستطيع أن يقاوم أو أن يعيش بأفضل صورة. Alright. So you wanted to talk about
So I'll go into the detox and it'll bring me into that. It'll be like one little package.
Okay.
So the next portion of the program where we flow in, it's a framework that seems to be the framework that helps our kids thrive the most without the least amount of type of reactions and behavioral changes. Although when you do change things, that's potentially to happen anyways. But our world today is just very toxic. When I did my detox specialty, the amount of toxins that I realized that we were being exposed to today versus even just in the 1970s is like absolutely astronomical. So to put it into perspective, which will bring me into a little bit of like understanding the causes, or at least what we see in the program as the causes of regressive autism, is that our toxic load is so high that it is impacting kids from the womb on. So even within us. So there was a study done by the EWG, and that's probably a good resource to put, that tested thousands of umbilical cords, and the average umbilical cord tested for about 267 toxins.
267 toxins.
Yes. And a large percentage of those cause neurodevelopmental issues. So knowing that these things can happen within the womb, it doesn't matter if you do MRIs in the womb, it's just validating the fact that data that we already know. And then when our children are born, they're born in different environments that could potentially be C-section, vaginal birth that's healthy, breast milk that's also toxic. We're just seeing large amounts of toxicity grow. And so one of the areas that we focus on is using food very intentionally to help stimulate their detoxification organs so they work more optimally, and support certain toxins from their brains to be removed, such as food colorings and toxins that are known to go up to the brain. So neurotoxins look like heavy metals that we are exposed to. Back in the day, the only heavy metal we were exposed to was what we came in contact with on the earth, like what we touched on the ground. And now we have utensils, we have tin cans, we have aluminum, even just in like certain medications that we take orally for like heartburn. So we're becoming very exposed in microdoses everywhere, where one microdose is potentially safe. But then when you have 1,000 microdoses in the first year of life, you're looking at something very different. Mm-hmm. And so we focus on helping our children both stimulate their livers. We help them with the potential of being exposed to live toxins such as viruses, fungi, bacteriums that are more, like we call them, opportunists. That means that they're not the ones that are supposed to be running the show in our gut. They're the ones that generally are. And so we start to support that toxicity level as well. So in autism, what we see in the program as being the foundational root causes are nutritional deficiencies and lack of proper brain development that can be easily supported with brain development nutrition and nutrients, because that's what our brain is made of. And also by removing some of the harmful substances, even just in our homes. That's a great start. Mm-hmm. And so we focus on removing the exposures where they're happening, and then also supporting the body to get rid of what it's already had. Mm-hmm. And then go ahead.
Thank you.
I know that one's heavy.
Okay. إذا من الطرق التي نستطيع نتكلم الآن عن التخلص من السموم، أو هذا جزء آخر من البرنامج. كيف نقوم بهذه التغييرات في حياة أطفالنا بدون أن نرى ردات فعل كبيرة منهم. نعم، كل تغيير تكون فيه ردات فعل أو مقاومة، ولكن نحاول أن نقلل من ذلك. في حياتنا الحالية أو الحياة الحالية التي نعيشها، هناك كثير من السموم التي نحن على صلة بها بصورة يومية، ومقارنة بالإحصائيات الموجودة مثلا في عام 1970 أو السبعينيات من القرن الماضي، السموم التي نحن نتواصل معها اليوم غير قابلة للمقايسة، غير قابلة للقياس. مثلا في التوحد نعرف أن السموم الموجودة أو الأشخاص الذين قد تتغير. Sorry, what is regressive autism? Is it the autism that can change with behavioral and stuff?
So regressive autism, so there's genetic and regressive. Regressive means, okay, yeah, so there's 1 in 10,000 kids born with genetic autism.
Okay.
Regressive autism is what we see now. Okay. So it means that they hit milestones
and then they stop.
Then they went back.
Got it.
Yeah.
إذن هذه نقطة مهمة. 1 من كل 10,000 أطفال يصاب بالتوحد عن طريق الجينات، عن طريق الوراثة. ولكن ما نراه الآن هو أن الأطفال ينمون بصورة طبيعية، وفجأة نرى تأخرا في نموهم. مثلا يتكلم الطفل ثم فجأة لا يتكلم، فهذا التوحد التراجعي قد نسميه. ففي هذا النوع من التوحد نرى أن كمية السموم التي يواجهها الطفل تكون كبيرة للغاية، وتبدأ حتى من وقت وجود الطفل في رحم أمه. هناك إحصائيات قامت بها مؤسسة EWG, and again EWG
is the Environmental Working Group.
Okay. مجموعة عمل البيئة. EWG أن هناك قاموا بفحص للحبل السري للأمهات بعد الولادة أو للأطفال والأمهات. فما حصل هو أنهم وجدوا 267 مادة سامة. هذا الرقم هو معدل السموم الموجودة في الأحبال السرية التي قاموا بفحصها. وعدد كبير من هذه السموم تسبب أضرارا في النمو لأعصاب ودماغ الأطفال. فعندما كثير من الأطفال يولدون عن طريق الولادة القيصرية، قد تنتقل هذه السموم الموجودة في جسم الأم عن طريق حليب الأم، وموجودة قد تنتقل موجودة في الجسم وفي مختلف الأعضاء. فما نفعله هو أن نساعد في إزالة هذه السموم في هذا البرنامج. مثلا نعرف أن الألوان الصناعية الموجودة في الأطعمة كمية السموم الموجودة فيها كبيرة. المعادن التي قد نتأثر فيها أيضا موجودة. المعادن في السابق كانت الأشياء التي موجودة على الأرض وما يلمسها جسمنا. الآن حتى في مثلا الأدوية، بعض الأدوية الخاصة بحموضة المعدة فيها نسبة من الألمنيوم. المعادن هذه موجودة في كل شيء. نعم، إن كنا قد نتواصل أو نتعرض لهذه المعادن بصورة مثلا قليلة مرة في اليوم، ممكن كان التأثير أقل، ولكن نحن نتعرض لها آلاف المرات في كميات صغيرة كل يوم، فهذا له أثر مختلف. حتى أن هناك سموم حية مثل أنواع من البكتيريا أو الفطريات نتعرض لها. فما نفعله هو أو ما نراه في التوحد هو نقص في المواد الغذائية المفيدة أو العناصر الغذائية الهامة في الجسم، وهذا ما يؤثر على نمو الدماغ. ما نفعله هو أن نزيد من هذه العناصر الغذائية الهامة ونقلل أو نزيل الأضرار أو السموم الموجودة في بيوتنا. نبدأ من بيوتنا.
So the last portions are focusing on the rest of the pillars of lifestyle medicine, which is movement. Some people like to do integrative reflex therapy for this.
What is it?
It's called integrative reflex. It's reflex therapy integration. Reflex therapy integration. I don't do that. I just hit my mic, but that's okay. And then we focus on removing screens.
Okay.
As much as possible in the world that we live today, because it does impact dopamine and behavior. And then we also work on the gut after. So we just focus on diversity and nutrients that help heal and reseal the gut so that they have as much microbiome that helps with inflammation, reducing inflammation in the brain consistently.
So the gut biome affects the inflammation.
It does. There's a pathway called the vagus nerve that actually is for kids, it's open. And then by 5, it reduces. So we still have it. We have 4 messaging pathways from our gut to our brain. So the first one is the vagus nerve is the biggest one, and 90% of the fibers in that pathway go up, not down. So we're getting more information from our gut to our brain than the other way around.
Wow.
And then the next portion is we also get it from the spinal cord, from hormones, and then also from our blood. And it all goes to the amygdala, which is the area that's most affected in autism, which is why it just makes sense to support that. Yeah, and then that's the whole program. With that, people will go through it once, and they have lifetime access to the program, so they repeat the process until they get to the outcomes that they want. And so far, usually going through the program, even just once, takes about 8 months to a year, depending on picky eating. And for most kids, they look a year later and they have a very, very different child that is more aware, able to communicate, problem solve, all the things all those symptoms that cause the suffering in autism, they see diminish. And so it helps them to keep going.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And you said it's a 1-year program?
It's lifetime.
Lifetime. Okay.
Yeah, so they do it as many times as they want until they get the results they want. And they have coaching, and we have live coaching available for as long as they want.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. There are many words that I'm not sure how to. I didn't
Translate.
do my homework, like amygdala. I don't know that.
That's okay.
Or the
You could
vagus
just
nerve.
say. You could just say.
I'll post the.
You could
I'll
just
do
say
my research.
pathway. You could just say pathway
Yes.
to the brain,
Okay.
and most people will understand it that have a child with autism. They talk about the gut-brain axis all the time now.
Okay.
That's pretty common knowledge.
Mhm.
And the amygdala, just say the part of the brain that affects autism.
Affects autism.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's usually the easiest way because like that's where the center of behavior and memory is.
Okay. من بقية الأسس الموجودة في هذا البرنامج واحدة منها هي الحركة. الحركة مهمة و you said reflex therapy integration. That's another thing I don't understand.
You could just say working on motor skills and fine. Do you know how to say fine motor skills?
Yes,
yeah, fine motor and gross motor skills.
Okay. إذا الحركة الدقيقة والحركة العامة أيضا العمل عليها إزالة الشاشة أو الوقت الذي يقضيه الطفل على الشاشة قدر الإمكان لأن الشاشة تؤثر على إفراز هرمون الدوبامين وعلى السلوك. صحة البكتيريا الموجودة في الأمعاء هذا أيضا مهم لأن إن كانت البكتيريا الموجودة في الأمعاء غير صحية أو غير صحيحة تؤثر على حصول التهابات في الدماغ. التهابات هنا بمعنى inflammation وليس infection because the word can sometimes be used interchangeably in Arabic. So it's inflammation أو الإحمرار. هناك أيضا نعمل على الطريق أو الطريق الموجود الذي يصل الأمعاء بالدماغ وهو عصب اسمه الفيغاس نيرف أو عصب الفيغاس. سأجد الترجمة الصحيحة وأضعها. وهذا العصب مفتوح حتى يصبح الطفل عمره 5 سنوات ثم يغلق. ولكن ما زلنا نحصل على المعلومات من الأمعاء إلى الدماغ أكثر مما تصل المعلومات من الدماغ إلى الأمعاء. So you did say that at age 5 the vagus nerve closes.
It doesn't close. It gets smaller.
It gets smaller. Okay.
Yeah. So we do see more results with kids and on the opposite side, you can see more damage with kids if they're eating not healthy at that age. But on the other side, you see more healing faster with kids.
God.
But it's still always possible. We have kids that are 12 that are getting their voice back.
Okay.
So.
إذا لأن هذا العصب مفتوح ثم يصبح أقل أو سعته تصبح أقل لهذا نرى النتيجة أسرع في الأطفال الذين عمرهم أقل من 5 سنوات عندما نقوم بتغييرات إيجابية في غذائهم أو في حياتهم بنمط الحياة. وأيضا نستطيع أن نرى أثرا سلبيا أسرع إن لم نلتزم بالأساليب الصحية للحياة في الأطفال الذين عمرهم أقل من 5. ولكن أيضا التغييرات الإيجابية نستطيع أن نراها في الذين حتى عمرهم 12 سنة. وماذا أيضا الهرمونات تؤثر على الدماغ، تؤثر على الجزء الموجود في الدماغ الذي يسمى بالأميجدولا. أيضا سأجد الترجمة لهذا. هذا الجزء يؤثر على التوحد. والبرنامج متاح للشخص مدى الحياة. يستطيع أن يعيد البرنامج مرات ومرات حتى يرى التغييرات الإيجابية. عادة ما يعود الأهالي ويقولون لنا بالتغييرات الإيجابية التي رأوها في أطفالهم بعد مرور سنة مثلا الطفل يستطيع أن يتواصل، عنده وعي أكثر. وعندما نزيل كل الأشياء التي سببت التراجع التوحدي أو التوحد التراجعي نرى أن الشخص أو الطفل يتحسن. وهناك أيضا مواصلة مع كوتش أو مع شخص مدرب بصورة مباشرة مدى الحياة أيضا. So there is life coaching, is that?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, they have strategy coaching, so they get their coaching, but it's for lifetime access.
Yeah, but they can still have one-on-one.
Yeah. No, we don't do one-on-one.
Not one-on-one.
I don't do one-on-one. I do group.
Oh, group. Okay.
Yes.
So, but it's life.
It is life. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
إذا هناك تواصل مباشر إن كان الشخص عنده أي أسئلة يسألها في مجموعة من الأشخاص المشاركين.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you so much. So we will add all the links to your programs. If someone wants to sign up, it's straightforward, right? Just
it's very easy. Yes.
Clicks and they can How can they contact you if anyone wants to contact you?
So
Can we add the...
I'm going to add all the links, and I will add an email that is absolutely, I get flagged when people, I get marked when people are specifically asking for me. Yes.
Okay. And can someone who doesn't have someone in their family with autism, can they still benefit from your program?
Yes. So right now, any child that families feel are behind in learning or have learning disabilities, ADHD, Tourette's. Right now we have families with Tourette's as well.
What is?
Tourette's is tics. Like the tics, like when they're unable to control like certain body movements.
Okay.
Yes. Actually, I think it's like Tourette's Awareness Month too, as well.
Really?
This month, yeah.
It's the first time I hear this word.
Yeah, it's a
terminology. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't know how else to call it. It's like it's I think the
involuntary body movements.
Yeah, it's involuntary body movements. That's right. Okay. And verbal, like and the inability to stop certain verbal words. Yeah. So that absolutely we have and like really we do see kids come in right now that are just slowly getting behind in school and they want to academically perform better.
إذا السؤال هو هل هناك أشخاص يستطيعون أن يستفيدوا من هذا البرنامج إن لم يكن هناك شخص في العائلة مصاب بالتوحد؟ الجواب هو نعم. إن كان هناك أي طفل عنده تأخر من أي ناحية، من ناحية التعلم، عنده مشكلة ال ADHD أو نقص الانتباه وفرط الحركة، عنده مشكلة أيضا لا أعرف ترجمتها الحرفية ولكنها حركات جسدية غير قابلة لأن يتحكم فيها الطفل، أو كلمات لا يستطيع أن يتحكم فيها تخرج منه بدون تحكم. هذا البرنامج يساعدهم أيضا في التحسن بإحداث تغييرات في أنماط حياتهم. Thank you so much.
No, thank you.
Is there anything else you'd like to add for?
I don't think so. I think that just I would just add that every child can benefit. Like not any child can benefit, but every child can see improvements with even just taking any health action, whether it's in my program or it's just at home. Mm-hmm. I think it's really important for us to prioritize our future generations because they're the ones who are going to take care of us. Yeah, we have to remember that. And I think that message like tends to help people understand how important it is.
Yeah. إذا أي تغيير كل طفل يستطيع أن يرى أو يستطيع أن يتحسن بإحداث تغييرات صحية، سواء كانت عن طريق البرنامج الذي عندي أو عن طريق أي شيء تقوم به الأسرة في البيت ليكون أكثر صحة للأطفال. من المهم أن نركز على الجيل القادم لأنهم هم الذين سيعتنون بنا. Oh, I have one question. You have clients from all over the world, right?
I do.
Okay, so everywhere. And you do see the same results regardless of the place that...
Yes, so we have, I'd say we have a lot of families from Dubai.
From Dubai? Interesting.
Yes, Dubai, Malaysia. We have a couple families from like the area of like Malaysia, Singapore. We have a few from Australia, like everywhere. Like there's not one place. Africa.
Wow, amazing.
And we tend to see a lot of really great results with families who already have a good microbiome. So for example, families that are Middle Eastern, and not to just like put that demographic like in the center, but like Middle Eastern families that already eat fairly well, they tend to already have a good start. And so they see better results like going through the detoxes but it's faster because they have the foundation built.
Okay.
Yeah. It's when we see American families that like the families that need the most work are the ones who have C-sections and they haven't been breastfed, they haven't had introduction to fruits and vegetables ever. They've started with grains, right? Because everybody wants to give their kids pablum now. That's the areas we're seeing like a lot of extra work having to be done. And it's not that it's they see results so fast that it's easy to keep going, but it's just that their kids didn't have that same good start as people, I'd say overseas, is a big difference. So,
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
إذا نرى عائلات من كل أنحاء العالم، عندنا عائلات كثيرة من دبي، لا أدري ما هو السبب، ولكن عادة ما نرى أن العائلات التي عندها أساس صحي أكثر من ناحية الأكل أطفالهم يتقدمون بصورة أسرع. مثلا في الشرق الأوسط نرى أن الناس يأكلون الطعام بصورة صحية عامة، لذا نرى النتائج أسرع في أطفالهم الذين يعانون، على عكس الأطفال الموجودين في شمال أمريكا مثلا، أو العائلات التي مرت بعمليات قيصرية لم ترضع أطفالها، أو لم يبدأ الأطفال طعامهم الأول من الخضروات والفواكه، بل بدأوا بالغلات أو الحبوب مثل القمح. فهكذا نرى أن الطفل الذي يكون عنده بداية أفضل في الطفولة المبكرة يتحسن بصورة أفضل إن كانت هناك أي مشاكل لاحقة. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
That
Yeah.
was lovely. And
you're like, it was a lot. It challenged my.
That's great. Yes, that was a good challenge for me. That was great, but I really enjoyed it.